Good evening, boys and girls. Welcome to another edition of the Highbury Squad. Who wants their summer vacation now? Good evening, boys and girls. Welcome to another live edition of the Highbury Squad with myself, PG Tips, aka Princess Guna, aka Amanda, aka Kelvin Lewis's daughter. Welcome to the show.
Hello again. I feel like I've lived here all week.
Well, now you know what it's like to be me.
Yes, I am shattered, knackered, and absolutely pissed off with what I've seen tonight. But
why don't you introduce our special guest?
I was going to say, let me introduce to you our lovely Mr. Alan Myers from Sky, who is a toffee, and I'm assuming, who I've not messaged in the last couple of minutes, is over the moon at winning the Emirates. Hi, Al.
Well, good evening, ladies. Yeah, listen, I'm over the moon, but, it was a case of a fight as to who wanted it more, wasn't it? And Everton was saying you want it more, and Arsenal was saying no, you want it more. So it was one of those where it wasn't the greatest spectacle at all, and it took a goal like that to win it. But absolutely delighted. It means we're still in the race for Europa League place.
Good for you, Al. Honestly, we didn't. I mean, we're not going to do our player ratings because you're on the show with us tonight. And to be honest, I don't know. We'd probably not get anything higher than 5 tonight. But I just want to touch on something. We all know how crap we are. We're going to talk about Leno in a second. But Al, talk to me about VAR. Every game is ruining it, isn't it?
It is.
They can't even draw straight lines as it is. We were like this at one of the lines, like drunk.
It's like my niece in her maths class.
Well, yeah. One of the interesting one was when we scored, and then they started looking at offside, and one of the lines was going up in the air. It wasn't even going along, and I'm thinking, what are they doing here? But I was talking to someone, ex-pro, today actually, and I was saying, I genuinely I do not celebrate any goal now, ever. Even if I'm watching a neutral game, I cannot get excited about a goal. It's just completely gone. When I watch a lot of Championship football, and, you see a goal go in and you can jump up because it's a goal, and it's just, I genuinely don't know, because I think it's here to stay. I really do. I just don't see it changing.
God. Honestly, Al, you're going to have a spot on your face and you're going to be offside soon. I mean, it's not brought in for this.
Can I just interject for 1 second? Because VAR has been a disgrace and many teams have suffered from VAR this season. And this is true. Everyone's had to deal with it. But we still had time to equalize or find an equalizer, and we just can't keep making the same excuses. And Alan, there are a few Arsenal key influencers and bloggers and podcasters who, tweeted out how long it had been since you've beaten us in our own backyard. And Amanda and I hate that type of stuff. We're like, oh God, it's like tempting fate in the most insane way. And I've been harsh on Arteta. I've also tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. I know you know Mikel really well. You've worked alongside him. We are in a shambles as a club for many reasons. And the Europa League is our way out now. But I'm just tired of the excuses in the Premier League. We've just been so poor this season, no matter who plays.
Yeah, it's, I think the thing that's been consistent with Arsenal this season is the inconsistency, hasn't it? And I don't know what, listen, people will say, give it time. And yes, there is rebuilding to do. I think, it's the same with our club, there's clearly rebuilding to do. But in this game, in this day and age, you don't get time. And I think people will get restless. I mean, listen, you've got the Europa Cup, Europa League trophy to go for, and you win that, the whole thing looks completely different, doesn't it? But I just think when you look at it, you're right before when you said about VAR. It is an easy excuse and people do make those excuses, and it can't be. Because I think both Arsenal and Everton have underperformed this season. In a season when possibly there were opportunities there for our two teams to go and do greater than what they're doing. As I say, it all changes if you win the Europa League. Of course, it does. But that's got to be done yet, hasn't it?
Against our old manager too, there's a whole other juxtaposition and story there, especially. I just want to touch on a couple more things on the game tonight, Amanda, and I know we want to talk to Alan about bigger things. Amanda and I think we're on the same page still. The game tonight, we always care about our club and we always want our club to win, but we were a little not disengaged from the game tonight, but we found it hard to kind of G ourselves up to get in the moment, especially with everything that's going on. I saw Callum Chambers talk before the game, Mikel Arteta, that they have to block everything out that's going on around them. Alan, you've been with teams, you've looked after teams, top tier players. How difficult is it to shut the noise out and go out on the pitch and perform, especially knowing what was happening outside the Emirates today?
Yeah, I don't, when players say they're right to say we have to do that, but I don't think they do. I think, they're human beings. You when you're in the club, when you're playing for the club, when you're employed by the club, that pressure is more intense because it's your job, it's your livelihood, it's what you live every day. And I'm not saying it's any less passionate than fans, because it's not, but when you live it every day, it's difficult, and you cannot just turn a blind eye to it. You really can't, and I don't believe any player or manager who says they do. But you talk about a sort of malaise, and I've got that myself this season, and I genuinely do think it's because there's no fans in the ground. We just cannot get enthused by the games, no matter how much we try. And I just think, well, that doesn't help on top of not playing well.
It's like a training game, isn't it? But it honestly, we do have bigger things tonight. I honestly thought that when the game started, I'd be really into it, and I'm not at all. But I just want to talk to you out. There's a lot of people in chat that are very much Arteta out. That's it. They think me and Kev are mental for actually supporting him. You've worked with him, as Sophie's alluded to. You know him pretty well. What do you make of him? Give our listeners an insight to what he's actually like.
Can you let everyone know, because there are some people, sorry to interrupt, because let them know, like Alan was the head of communications for Everton Football Club, you guys, and he's a media guru, works across many different outlets and has done. So there were a few people asking about Alan. We just assume that everyone knows who Alan is because he's been on the show before. So
he used to be communication director at Everton.
Yes.
So that's why he knows Arteta.
Let me say, I actually did an interview with Mikel on the day after he left Everton to join Arsenal, because if you remember, it was very much a late night thing on transfer deadline day, and it was I think there was about 10 minutes to go, and he left, and so it was a big thing for him, and he genuinely was, he's a genuine guy. Let's start with that first, as I think most people would say that, no matter who knows him or doesn't know him, you can see that he's a genuine football man, and I think what you've got to do, he is someone who is a thinker. He's someone who, is a perfectionist. I think he wants everything right. I don't think he suffers fools, but I think the problem at the moment, and this is where the frustration will come from, is that he's come into Arsenal at Arsenal's not an easy job. Let's not make any mistake about that. Arsenal is a difficult job as manager, no matter who you are or when you take on the job, and I think he's come in at a time when it really needs experience. He doesn't have that as a manager, whether we like it or not, whether or not that's a criticism. It's not, because it is what it is. He is what he is. And I think, it's not necessarily saying that. We saw it with Unai Emery. Experience doesn't necessarily make you a success either. But I think he does need some experience now whether he needs someone to talk to, and I don't know what his backroom staff are like as far as support, but I just feel he just needs a little bit of support now to try and work this one out, because as I say, the inconsistency. I've seen Arsenal every now and again, and they look great, and then you think all of a sudden back, and it's very similar to Everton. All of a sudden they don't look half the team, and I don't know how you solve that one. I really don't. It's hard. If you're getting turned over every week 2 and 3-0, it's a simple situation, isn't it? It's a simple solution. It's not.
Yeah, and Alan, the other thing too, we've been done twice by Aston Villa this season, done twice by Wolves, taken how many points off Burnley. We've been done by you twice now. That's the first time Everton have beaten us since 1996, I believe, at home.
Yeah,
this is our worst.
Yeah,
this is our worst record at home since the dreadful. I think there's a 90s season where we were pretty bad, but then you go back to the era PG talks about. We've also only scored a handful of goals at home. I mean, it's like one bad record after the other. And as much as I think everybody wants to support Mikel, and knowing that we do have some challenges, Carlo Ancelotti has also somewhat underperformed in terms of what the expectations were for Everton. But here you are, you did the double over us. So in a nutshell, before we move over to some other things that we want to get, I know Amanda's got some questions for you on what's been happening this week. What do you think, from your perspective in your football experience, having been part of Everton, been around Mikel, what do you think he's thinking tonight? Take us into his mindset a little bit. Because yes, he's a born winner, and yes, he worked alongside Pep. But my goodness, I think every Arsenal fan is within their right to ask these questions.
Well, I think first of all, he'll be frustrated with all the outside noise, with everything that's going on. The last thing he would have needed would be this ESL business. That's the last thing he needs. He's come to Arsenal at a time where, it's after the king has gone, if you know what I mean. I know there was the Emery time, but really I think you're still suffering from the post Wenger era. Yeah, and Manchester United had it, didn't they, for a good few years once Sir Alex Ferguson stepped down. So it's very, very difficult at a club when it's been run in a certain way for so long. It's very difficult to try and find that new path, and this is where the quandary comes now for Arsenal, that you cannot get into a cycle of changing managers. It happened at Manchester United for a few years. It's happened at Everton recently, and it's no good. Now, of course, there comes a point when you say, well, this isn't working, but I don't personally think you're at that point, and I don't think Mikel Arteta would think that for a second. I think what he wants to do is get through a little bit of time, win some games. Obviously this isn't good enough in the league this season. That's fair to say. You expect better, but if he can get through, maybe win a trophy, and start to build some momentum, I think that's what he'll be thinking and hoping to try and do at the moment. And that might not be good enough for Arsenal fans. I don't, you'll know the feeling much better than I will. But I don't think you should look specifically at Mikel Arteta. I think there's a whole host of other stuff going on around the club, which, will contribute massively to this inconsistency at the moment.
We've also had everyone screaming for the youngsters to play. So he plays Nketiah and he gets slagged off for it.
No one wanted Nketiah to play.
Wait a second. Let me finish. Right. He then, obviously Leno's your first choice, but Arteta's fault that Leno let the goal in. The only thing I will criticise him for is Xhaka, because I don't understand why Cedric isn't playing there. The rest, the thing is, the game today, we actually passed the ball really well. It was the end product that wasn't there at all.
Tonight, to be honest.
No, we weren't. And we completed many more passes than you. I've got the stats, and we had 59% possession, but you don't get nothing possession anyway. But the thing is, it's always Arteta's fault. Well, when we win, it's the players. So I'm saying tonight that that team should have been good enough to at least get a goal against you. The fact that Leno is just calamity. I find it hilarious that I'm looking at all the comments and everyone's going for Arteta. I can't see anyone mentioning Leno. Leno has just done an absolute.
Yeah, but the team still had. Okay, there's 400 in live chat. Thanks to everyone who's joining us. And you can't legislate. He can't legislate for Leno's mistake. This is absolutely true.
You can't change.
Where's the criticism for Leno?
There is plenty of criticism for Leno. It is everywhere.
All I can see is Amanda's mental.
You know why, Amanda? You know why? You know why? Because he is breaking every record for poorness across the board. And we've had worse teams.
His fault that Lacazette got injured, that Aubameyang got malaria.
My goodness, we've qualified for the Champions League when we've had Shamak in our side and poor players in our side. The Premier League form is awful. We are terrible in the Premier League. I don't remember
Wenger getting the Champions League in the last couple of years, or Emery. So maybe
So wait, Wenger did it for 20 years, and we're going to give him crap for not being able to do it for the last 2 or 3 seasons of his tenure. That's not the point here.
Because the ship was sinking anyway. So thanks.
How can you defend a manager that has 13 wins and 13 losses for Arsenal Football Club in the Premier League? It gets to a point where it becomes a little bit like,
okay, bring another manager in. Tell me what he's going to do different.
It's not about bringing in another manager. It's about being able to see that what this manager is doing isn't working. That doesn't mean I'm saying fire him, but it means like he might not be the answer. He can't get lemonade out of some of these lemons. Even Emery got lemonade out of these lemons. Alan,
sorry, go on, Alan. We can round and die about this.
What I would say is that unless when you've worked in a club, when you've been into, it's amazing the effect that everything around the club has on the team's performance. And people will argue it shouldn't do and all the rest of it, and it doesn't. Managers say it doesn't bother them. It does. And if there's a sense around it, and you tell me, is there a sense around the club that it's all not right? And if that's the case, if you think that, that's what we'll be going through to players. It's what, and these problems come on top of each other, and eventually it shows on the pitch. And you see that at a lot of clubs. As I keep mentioning Manchester United, you saw it at Manchester United for a few years, and those things snowball, and that's why you get a situation you've got. You've got to get over that. Now, the only way to get over that is stability. Now, there's that great thing about whether you can stick with someone is it going to change? This is the quandary. This is the difficulty. I don't know. You'll know that better than me but you can't just look at the manager, because I can promise you it won't be just about him.
Yeah,
it won't be.
Okay, so
in a season where we've had COVID and no fans, no pre-season, after the injuries, everything that's gone on tonight, they're all to blame. That's what I'm going to say. They're all to blame.
Look, Leno's been a disaster. Most Arsenal fans believe we sold the wrong goalkeeper.
I don't think
Hindsight
he's been a disaster.
2020. He's saved us in the same seasons. Aubameyang's goal saved us. Leno's saves saved us. But since his 5 clean sheet, earlier in February, March, he's been really poor. And I'm not being funny. I don't think it helps that Arteta chops and changes the back line either on Leno. It's not fair on him either. And, I called him out for keeping playing Xhaka at left back, and people had to go at me for that because he was trying to put square pegs in round holes and get away with it. Look, we've got about 25 minutes left here. We want to get Alan's take on, it's a terrible game. We should have won it. We had the chances. There's nothing else to say unless you or Alan want to add to that. Amanda,
I've got a quote from Carlo Ancelotti.
What does it say, that he was right to take the Everton job and not the Arsenal job?
No, he said, honestly, that game should have been a draw. Arsenal played better than us, passed better than us, and deserved a draw. Never heard a manager say that before. I do. I don't think we were horrific. Yeah.
No, I agree. You're a better side.
But Leno makes a mistake and everyone
wants to
matter,
Alan. Alan, we've seen teams have 65%, 70% possession, and it matters 0 unless you score. and we're unable to do that.
But here's the thing. It does matter when you take a step back and look. If you were getting turned over, that is very different than playing well and losing. You might say, well, it isn't because you don't have any points, and that would be correct. But you do have to take that into consideration, and you have to start looking at, because it's important what happens on the pitch. Like I say, I take the point completely that at the end of the day you've got no points, and that's what matters. So and that's why we're in a results business, and that's why managers lose their jobs, and no matter what. But there is a difference between playing well and losing, and not playing well and losing, and that's important to think about, I think.
Well, we played better against you and lost, and worse against Fulham and got a draw in the last seconds. It's been a bit piss poor this week, but at the end of the day, it's I am very much different to a lot of people in the chat room tonight. I'm looking at Leno. I'm fuming with him. They're fuming with Arteta. That's up to them. But anyway, yes, let's move on. Nice. Alan. I know I'm nice. No, but I generally believe that Arteta needs to be given a chance in a normal season, if I'm honest, without all this. But I don't feel he's going to get that, and I'll tell you why. Let's get on to our owner, Alan. Okay, from the perspective of working at Sky this week, every media outlet has gone bizarre with what's happened. We were doing a pod live post Newcastle, me, Kev and Soph, and it broke the news. And I didn't really understand what it meant, and Kev tried to explain it, and I literally was tearful and then for the next 48 hours, it went mental. So from your perspective as a media guy at Sky, how did you see all this unravelling?
Well, of course, when I saw it Sunday night, we've heard about European Super Leagues, breakaway leagues for a long time now. We've talked about it on many occasions, but we've never really thought, if we felt that it was going to happen, it would have been in years in the future. Do you know what I mean? There would be discussions, and it might happen one day, when I'm too old to worry about it, which is about now anyway. But anyway, but when it started to get serious was late on in the night, when you heard that people had resigned from positions within UEFA on committees and things like that, and you thought, hang on, this is different. This is real. This is actually going to happen. And then the sort of the press release came out, and you had the details, the financial details, and you realise that what astonished me more than anything, rather than the actual, because as I say, we've heard many times about a European Super League, but what astonished me was the speed of the collapse. That for me was the big story this week, not the formation, because as I say, I fully expect there to be this again in the future. Maybe not in this guise, because this is dead now. This can't, that way of setup, that setup that they proposed cannot work now. There's been too much of a reaction, and there are too many people now on guard watching for it. So, but the way it fell apart, I felt was incredible. I never seen it. Someone said to me that they went to a game on the Monday, and at kickoff there was a Super League, and by the time half time had come, there wasn't a Super League, and that's how quick it was, and it's just unbelievable. And I don't know how the so-called top businessmen, and then they are, I say so-called, they are top businessmen. There's no two ways about that. But these people could have seen, and from a PR point of view, how badly was that managed, as far as, because it was just all over the place, and I find that astonishing that could happen.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's just, I actually feel like we've been in a dream this week, Al, with football, because you've got rival fans coming together. I don't know one person anywhere that wanted it, that agreed with it. You got Tottenham fans and Arsenal fans agreeing, City and United fans agreeing. You got Liverpool fans agreeing with United. It was the most bizarre, because the thing is, we're rivals, we're not enemies. We're all on one of this. We did a show last night with Toffee TV guy, Baz.
Yeah,
We
Baz,
did, we did Baz, and we wanted to bring him in because obviously you weren't included in that big six, and we had Liverpool, United, Arsenal, and Tottenham. It was so interesting. Everyone had such different perspective, but no one wanted it. Everyone hated it, and the fact that Liverpool, Arsenal, and United all hate their owners is a big thing.
Yeah, the heart of it, because it's split a little bit now. It's gone off into different sort of tributaries, it's gone in different directions. And you've got the 14 clubs fans, saying there should be punishments, which I believe there should. When I look at stories I've covered in the last year or so, Macclesfield, Bury, Wigan Athletic, all these clubs where they've been punished because of the actions of their owners, and then I hear people saying this week, you shouldn't punish the clubs because it was the owners. Well, that hasn't been the case since I can remember in football. There's so many examples I can give you of football clubs fans being punished when they don't deserve it. It's because of the actions of their owners. Now, so that's one argument. The other thing is that you've got now the ownership question come up, and this is almost the straw that broke the camel's back on a is it the donkey's back, the camel's back, whatever it is, but this is the
camel,
straw that broke, and because there was FSG, Kroenke, other teams in this Glazers, in this little group, they were all already under pressure. And I think what this has done now is given some real fire to the fans who are not, and disgruntled, are not happy with their owners, to push on. So that's another sort of aspect of it which has come in. I think for me, the biggest thing which united everybody was the fact that it was a closed shop, and there was going to be none of this relegation or promotion. It was all going to be about an invite. That goes against every single sporting merit principle that you could ever wish to have. And then
it doesn't become a sport, does it?
But people go on about VAR, and people go on about other things that are changing our game and almost Americanizing it. I think the biggest, that would have been the be all and end all of, we would have become, I hate to say it, because I love America, but an American sport. That's what we would have become, and that can't happen to this game. And that's the core of the outrage. I think that's where it starts to get to that little place in people's pits of their stomachs, which you can't touch and you can't mess with, and that's where the unified sort of approach to this is. But as you say, or as I say, there's other now things sprouting off from it. And I think the ownership one is as big as it gets, because even the Spotify guy has come on tonight, hasn't he?
I know.
Arsenal,
I'll take him all day long.
All day long.
He's only got 4 billion though, isn't he? So
yeah,
there'll be enough for us. The thing is, Al, did you see the protests outside the Emirates?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
I reckon we were. Well, I have to be honest.
Liverpool tomorrow.
I don't think Sky covered it well. If I'm honest, they made out there was like 100 or 200 there, when I think there was 4,000 to 5,000 there, which is, I know a lot of people that were there. Sophie did as well.
I can honestly say I watched before on Sky Sports News, and they basically were showing thousands of people and saying that there was a lot of people. I don't know. Maybe you're talking about the actual game coverage. I don't know, but
I think I wasn't watching Sky Sports News from 7 onwards, so we watching the game. And
I was watching Sky Sports News, and they definitely were. I think they said there was a few hundred at first, but then all of a sudden it became thousands. There was a lot of people there tonight. A lot of people.
I'm so proud of our fan base. I just need to say that I am utterly proud of everyone that turned up. Unfortunately, I couldn't go due to work and watching the game and everything else, but it made me feel we're all at one. None of us like our owner, Al. There isn't anybody, not one I come across anywhere, talks about Kroenke in the way that you'd want to talk about your owner. And it feels like, and I felt like this a long time, that we're in a bad dream and we're trapped. I don't think he's ever going to sell. He said a long time ago he's going to keep it in the family. What does he care about 5,000 fans protesting at the Emirates when he's sitting in his ranch in wherever he is in LA?
Well,
and that's
when you
what
look
we've
at
got.
Colorado.
yeah, but when you look at the fact that he saw off Usmanov, you have to think to yourself, if he can do that, a man of his wealth, and he can pretty much do anything in that respect. He can see out anything, and you're right. Whether we like it or not, 4,000 or 5,000 fans outside the Emirates is not going to make a big difference.
No,
I think I was listening to Graham Souness on the show tonight, and he basically made the point that a lot of these owners, most of these owners, apart from maybe Daniel Levy of the 6 clubs, are not here. They don't have to come and face the crowds. They just don't do it. And that's the case, and these people are hard-nosed businessmen, and there's no way of getting away from that. But if you've got to really think about what you want for your club, you can't. I seen a thing tonight saying that the other 14 clubs want all these executives taken away. They want the owners to remove these executives because they won't be able to work with them. That's easier said than done. There's a thing called employment law, and things like that, which you just cannot change people's jobs like that. I know it does happen in football quite a lot, but on that big scale, I just don't see that happening. So it's not over by a long stretch. There's so much more to come out, I think, on this, and so much more sort of poison to come out of it, because it's like a boil that just needs squeezing, and what worries me more than anything is now that government are getting involved. I've never been comfortable with government getting involved with football.
No, not our government, especially.
Well, I'm encouraged that they're taking an interest. Don't get me wrong. I'm also quite strong on fan ownership. I just don't think it would work in this country. I don't think the models that we see in Germany would happen here, because we're too ingrained in the way. What we want is good owners who have those principles and those morals. That's what we need, because at the end of the day, football fans want to go to the football match just to watch the match. That's all they want to do. They want to watch a successful team, and if it's not successful, a team that's having a go. They don't want to run a football club. Really, if you ask yourself that question, you don't want to be running the football club. What you want to be doing is going and enjoying the game. And at the moment, because of the actions of certain owners, you're not. And that's the problem.
Alan, I think even Mark Goldbridge tonight, Manchester United TV, the biggest Manchester United TV fan thing, and we spoke to Dale yesterday from Stretty News, and I know Liverpool fans are mobilising for their next home game. I believe that we've inspired other fans tonight to do the same or better, and they will do it in their way, and they will do it in different ways. And, we are very proud of our fans tonight. There was no incident. It was all done respectfully. And I don't know, unless anyone knows of any incidents that happened. I didn't see anything. So I'm just wondering, where does football go from here, in your opinion, with the other 14 clubs? So there's been word about punishment. There's been word about wanting to get chairmans out and chief executives out. Can you talk us through a little bit about what you think will happen with regards to the punishment? And if there will be any?
Yeah, this is the interesting one, because, the Premier League are in a little bit of an interesting situation, because let's not forget that the 6 clubs involved are hugely important to the Premier League, hugely important. So I think there's a balance which they will, I believe whatever sanctions are open to the Premier League, they should take. That's my own personal view. For the reasons I said before, because that's the way it's always been. You can't just decide because it's top 6 clubs. You can't always decide. You almost all of a sudden decide that, the rules that we've lived by for so many years don't matter now. So there's that. But they will be dictated to by what they can do legally, let's be honest. So that's, I think going forward is the big problem. Is clearly there's a lot of distrust now, with the 14 other clubs. They've effectively be going into meetings while people are doing things behind their back. That's the simple fact, and that's where there will be an issue for me. That's the biggest damage that's been done here. You can fine clubs, you penalise them, whichever way you want to do. That'll be a one-off. That'll be done and it'll be sorted. But it's the long-term damage that's been done, and I don't think that can be solved by just removing certain people, certain individuals. There have to be a period where these clubs and these executives need to show and prove that they're back on board, and they're going to be, and I don't know how they do that. Whether they can, whether they want to, is another thing, because as I say, people are suggesting that it's not over this, yet. It's going to be coming back in some of the guys, because at the fundamental issue here is that the big clubs, I hate that phrase, but the so-called big clubs, want what they think they deserve, as far as the way the game is, and they want it changing to suit them. And I sort of, there is a somewhere deep down there is a point to a certain degree of that. It's like anything. If you're generating the most income or something, that should be reflected. However, in football, football is not like any other business, as we know. We see owners. I've known owners down the years who've done things which they would never do in their normal businesses. And football's different. There's a moral issue with football, and that's the issue. And that's the problem.
But Al, how can the 14 other Premier League clubs demand the chairman step down? They're self-run businesses. They can't. Yeah, but that's what they've asked. It broke news early tonight, didn't it?
Yeah, I think that's an indication of how football works. I remember, I think it may be Gareth Southgate or someone like that. He said, "We all love football, but we don't love the football business. We don't love the business of football. And that's as true a word I've ever heard. Because it is a very, very difficult business to be in, and it's cutthroat, and it's everything that you would see on any of these programs that they've made down the years about it, which we all think were a bit far-fetched. But there has to come a time when these owners have to realize what we've seen from the football community in this country over the last few days. They have to understand that is real, and it's never going to go away. You don't mess with English football. You don't mess with the system of football in this country, because it's so ingrained, it's so in us. And to see the reaction we've seen just really sort of cements that. And I don't know whether they will. I don't know whether they can. They have to find a way to appease everybody, and that's not easy in football.
It's not easy in football. You're listening to the Highbury Squad. It's the post-game show. Another loss for the Arsenal at home this season, and Everton do the double on us. Alan, before we wrap things up here in just a little bit, I guess for Arsenal fans especially, we still have Thursday to look forward to, and today doesn't really best prepare us mentally for that. But we are a cup team, and we live in hope that we'll be able to beat Unai Emery. What's your take on this season as a whole? You've talked about football being lackluster. It's been soulless. We've talked about protests. We've talked about what might happen with the punishment and all this jazz. Do you think there'll be... do you think this Manchester City winning the league, if Arsenal win Europa League, if an English club wins Champions League, do you think it will be seen the same?
No, I just think no matter what happens, the benefits. Let's take Arsenal's, case. If you were to win the Europa League, you won't get the benefit this season, in my opinion. It won't mean that much this season. Of course, it would be brilliant because you'll love it on the night and all the rest of it. But where you'll get the benefits of that is next season. When you've got into the Champions League, and so there's just something about this last season. I was amazed today, right? And I don't know why, but I could not believe that it was this season when Leeds and Liverpool played at the start of the season, and it was a 4-3 game at Anfield, if you remember. And like, I thought that seems like 2 years ago. You know, it didn't seem like the same season. You know, and I don't know how long it's been going on for. I don't. I'm like dazed and confused about what's happening and where we are. You know, and I don't know whether anyone else feels like that, but I just feel like I don't know what's happening. And I think until we get fans back in the stadium, until we get football back to being normal, you know, in the way we've known it, even half-filled stadiums would do me. You know, it's not going to be the same, and I just cannot. I've lost that desire to get up and yes, I'm watching the games, but it's hard work. You know, it's hard work to watch, and I just cannot. Do you know what I mean?
We agree. It was hard for us today. Honestly, it's the hardest podcast personally that I've had to do. And I think Amanda as well wasn't looking forward to tonight's game, not because we don't love our club, but just because of everything going on. And it felt like the game was not insignificant or not important, Al, but maybe secondary to everything everyone's endured. And maybe it's the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, maybe it's just the tip of the iceberg and everything we've gone through as humans over the last year, just trying to deal with life. And then you kind of get to a certain point or a certain game where you're like, man, I don't care, but I don't have anything left to give today.
No, I feel empty. You feel like you're in no man's land, you're in limbo and you're in shock. You don't actually know what's going on. The fact that I haven't been to the Emirates for over a year is the most bizarre anyway. You've sort of got used to it, sitting on the sofa watching every game. We've not particularly played well this season. The thing is, we've had the odd game that's been great, and that's that. I don't know how we beat United this year, but we did. The odd moments. But honestly, Al, this would be so Arsenal to go and win on Thursday. It would just be so Arsenal to do it. And no one would be shocked either, because we are so, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way to anyone. We're so bipolar, it's unbelievable. It is so consistently inconsistent that I actually don't even know what to think anymore. Who's to blame? What to blame? You know, I don't know what to say anymore. It's been such a long week as well.
I'll tell you the thing I'd love to know, you know, and I know I've come on to talk about, you know, different things, but what I'd love to know is what you see as the biggest problem of Kroenke and their ownership.
Everything.
I think it's the disconnect is the disconnect. And I think that started from when you see owners like Abramovich at every home game cheering his team like he's a fan. You see even Manchester City in at the beginning more so, their owner. I think it's the disconnect and the.
But do you need an owner to be at the game?
I just think you need an owner that you feel cares and is part of the process and picks a really good executive team who's going to manage the money and the transfers properly. And I think it's just now a sense of poor ownership reflects on who is beneath you and who you hire to manage your business. And Alan, I think they've done that poorly. Now, whether you can blame the Kroenkes on all of that, or you can blame the executive team for mismanaging transfers and giving some of the worst contracts in the history of Premier League football. I mean, they hire people to do that for us, but it's
ultimately,
all of the.
You know, it's down to the owners. Ultimately,
yes,
in any business, whether it's football or anything else, the owner is at the be all and end all, as far as I'm concerned. You know that.
Sophie's talking about the disconnect, that is a major part. But the fact that he's not put any money into our club is unbelievable. He's a millionaire, billionaire, whatever he is. He's come and bought shares and walked away. It's so heartbreaking to know what I went through with my club in the 80s to building up this great team, to go to Anfield and win in 89 and start, you know, George Graham era ended. We won the league. Then Wenger comes in and we see the best 10 years of football. And now, Alan,
do you see it changing? Do you see it changing after this week?
No.
You know, and the other thing too is that
very depressed.
I've certainly seen a lot of people talk about protests, and it's not going to change anything, not going to sell the club. I mean, Arsenal's like a cash cow for them. You don't know how far things would go. I mentioned that, previously in the US, we've seen owners had to give up teams, but that's been down to racism and abhorrent behavior on caught on camera, where owners have had the power to oust them, whereas where we come from and the league that we operate in, it's harder to do some of these things. But I think that if you do it consistently and you don't give up, then eventually your voice will be heard. But it's just really, really difficult. It's really difficult. And I just think we've mismanaged the business, transfers and contracts, Alan, and it's led to giving away players like Ozil and Mustafi and Socrates and all these other players for free. And it's criminal.
I have to say, from time I remember, in my whole time in football, even in the days of Pat Rice, and when I used to watch, right through Kenny Sansom and right through all those different eras, Arsenal have always felt like a very well-run club. Never go too mad, but always enough to keep it solid, to keep it stable, to keep it professional, to keep it classy. I've always felt Arsenal were a classy team and a classy club, and you just get the sense that that's not quite the same now. And I don't mean that in disrespectful way. But what I'm saying is that same level of almost, I don't know how you describe it, but do you know what I mean? And it just feels as if that isn't there. Now, whether that's the same with a lot of clubs, and and just in modern day, I don't know. But there just doesn't seem to be that. You never even questioned it. Whenever I went down to Highbury, you sort of, in awe is probably over the top, but you always gave that total respect to everybody at Arsenal. You were always looked after well, and it just doesn't seem to be the same in the last few years.
I know. Oh, listen, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so sorry that Sophie and I are so depressed. Normally, normally we have,
I have to say, this has been the easiest ride I've ever had on one of these podcasts.
Well, we're still not going to talk to you for a week for beating us, Al. I mean, that's just a given.
No.
Toffees.
I feel slightly, robbed, to be honest, of the argument and the fight. Usually I've been told off by now. I've had to sit in on a massive argument between the three of you, with KC usually involved. And tonight I've had free run, to be honest.
You've had it nice.
Who's this fella presenting the new programme?
You've won 1-0. You've won at the Emirates, which you haven't done for about 84 years or whatever it is. You haven't had to split me and Sophie up. Don't glow.
I don't have a clue.
Oh,
no, you're always classy, Al. Always classy.
One thing football has always told me is never gloat. And the way I look at it is take the win. We didn't play well tonight at all. We were the second best, I thought. But take the win. Absolutely. Enjoy the points and move on to the next one.
Listen, as long as you come above Spurs, I'll be happy. See, we will be gloating on Sunday if City beat Spurs. That's just the way it is. That's football, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you, Al. I will speak to you very soon.
Ladies.
Oh, we're going to get you on when we're happier in the summer.
Yeah. End of the season.
End of the season.
We'll celebrate your entrance into Europe and ours as well through the Europa League win.
We'll put Baz on with you.
When you lift on the night that you lifted the Europa League Cup, I will come on and celebrate with you. How's that?
Please God. Thank you, Al. Take care.
Al. Take care, mate.
Bye.
Bye. I think we're exhausted, aren't we, PG?
I've got nothing left to say. I'm tired. I'm so upset. I feel like I'm in shock. It's so bizarre, isn't it? Never been in this position before. What a year since COVID has started. It's just, I know everyone says I just go on and protect Arteta, but I do feel sorry for him since he's begun. I do. But listen, I just want we all want Arsenal to win everything. We all want Arsenal to succeed. We all want Arsenal to be the best they can. unfortunately, under Kroenke, I don't think we're going to have that. So where do we go from here? This is the thing. And I think we can do another podcast on this. And Kevin, as you all know, has been on Sky tonight commentating, looking as dapper as ever. We haven't seen him much this week. So he will be back with us next week. I am going to go to sleep every night.
Who wants to tuck PG in and sing her a lullaby? How about this lullaby? There's only one. No, wait, wrong manager. No, I'm not going to do that one. How about he's blonde, he's quick, his name's a porno flick, Emmanuel. What else can I sing to you?
But also, we would like to thank all the squaddies for being with us since Newcastle, that match. We've had thousands and thousands of you join us every night because obviously we have been very passionate and standing really behind the AST and what they've done for us. Please go and join the AST. Honestly, when we all go back to normal and we get to go to meetings in London, it's fantastic. I love them. Anyway, so if you've got to run.
I do have to run. I'm actually going to
tell everyone why you've got to run.
I'm going to go on TalkSport and have a little chat about the Arsenal with Adam Cattrall and Mickey Gray in a few minutes. So swing over there if you want to hear a little bit more. And then PG, we're going to address the Ray Parlour, Robbie thing next week because we want to talk about that. We've got to get Kev's view on all of this stuff happening as well. Can I just say how spectacular it has been having you on the show pretty much every day this week? It's been lovely.
Oh, one day. Every
one
day.
day.
I don't have a life. I just work and podcast. Listen, it's been important, isn't it? Kev couldn't be on the show, not having you on your own. I did my best to be here. And what a week it has been. And, you know, there's one thing I will say. We're not going to discuss Robbie and Ray Parlour, but we have had less people in chat tonight when we've lost. And remember what Parlour said. Yeah. We get more when we win. And I don't agree with that. So we're going to leave you with that because Sophie's got to go. Everyone go to TalkSport now. Go and support my girl. I'm going to listen to her.
This is the best comment of the night.
That's all we've come to, Newman, isn't it? Talking about my hair because we've got nothing.
Oh my God! Wait! Someone may be. I have to put this on. They're running 2 minutes late anyway. So hold on, PG. Look at this. This one's great.
Yes, I'm not being protective by the manager, although I'm my own manager. I'll be on the subs bench next week coming on.
Oh, hilarious.
Thank you, everyone. Listen, everyone, I understand most of you don't agree with me on Arteta, and that's absolutely fine. I've got no issue with that. I want it to work for him. If it doesn't work for him by the end of the season, not this season, next one, then he's going to have to
you mean the whole of
do. I've said it all along. I'm going to give him the season. Yeah.
We're gonna listen to Carl. Hit that like button. If you hate everything today, just hit the like button. I'm not even gonna make a list.
And we will bring Alan back on because he's so amazing as a guest. He really
was
is.
So depressing for him tonight.
I know. He'd like to had to liven us up.
Listen, you guys, we give it to you the way we feel it. We don't sugarcoat anything here at the Highbury Squad Central. We absolutely do not. You see what you see is what you get, and what you get is what we feel. And that's pretty much it. Right. Depending on if there's breaking news over the weekend, there might be an impromptu, but you're more than likely to see us on Monday. That's correct. Monday. I'll be back for Monday Madness. We have an Arsenal podcaster roundtable on Tuesday with some of your favorite people, so look out for that. And then Kevin says will return next week, and lots of other good stuff too.
And then
PG.
we've got Villarreal, so we would definitely post matching next Thursday night.
I can't think about that yet. One problem at a time.
God, breathe. But
tell the troops, PG.
I don't know what was something has just left my brain though. We wanted to talk about supporting the Tollington pub as well.
Yes, thank you. Well remembered. So please go on to Twitter or you can just Google the Tollington. And what's happening is a lot of the businesses around the stadium, as you know, Highbury Corner suffered from it. And there's also landlords that are seeking to take rent and go back to when COVID started. And the Tollington are being asked to pay like 6-figure sum right now, based on, unfortunately, what's happened over COVID. And business owners just can't afford this type of stuff. And I know that the AST have got involved in that too, and other key informers and Arsenal influencers have. The Tollington, many of you have probably been there, had a pint there. So please go and give them your support, sign the petition, and write to your local MPs as well, if you're in the area or not. It's very important that we try and keep the spirit, PG, of all of those businesses around the Emirates alive. I mean, this is why today it just feels like, can we take another punch in the stomach?
No, it's not good. Go and support them, that's for sure.
Definitely.
After Sophie's been on Talk Sport, then go and support the Gooners podcast, the American friend of ours. I feel like he's our brother podcast, Magic Mike. Go and join them after as well if you want to talk more Arsenal. But thank you all for joining us this week. We feel like we're one big family with you all here. It's so lovely. Thank you for being wonderful squaddies. And as much as it pains me to say this, because I'm so sad about everything, always Arsenal.
Hold on, let me try.
Always.
Wait.
Always.
Hold on. Okay.